اللهم صل على محمد رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد رسول الله
إنك ضعيف وإنها أمانة وإنها يوم القيامة خزي وندامة. Look at that. He was against, in your situation of counterpower, he was strong. And when he asked for power, what was the reaction of the Prophet ﷺ? Dealing with what? Rights? No. Dealing with psychology. Ya Aba Dharr, you are weak. And this is amana. It's deposit. It's something that you have to keep, and in the day of judgment, it could be your distraction. I'm not going to give it to you. You are strong when it comes to oppose. You are weak when it comes to impose. The same man. Get that. Get that, because this is what we need when it comes to understanding Islam. Is not about right or wrong, it's not about justice, it's about psychology, education, dignity, spirituality, love, brotherhood. It's all that together, all what I'm saying. So we need to come with a deep understanding of our religion, not only with very superficial, oh, Islam is all, it's all about justice. For years I have been repeating when I was asked, what is Islam? Islam is justice. And I wrote this book on the Prophet ﷺ had changed my mind. No, Islam is about peace, and this is only, it's but a condition, but it's a very imperative and necessary condition, multifaceted condition, with all what I'm talking about now. With this dignity, equality, well-being, and then you add to this all these dimensions that are so important when it comes to the basic needs, and also knowledge, education, brotherhood, love, and spirituality. Two things are important, just we have to add that. There is something which is important. You know, when you look at what sometimes happens in jail, when you go and you listen to the people who are in jail, and the gangs, for example. Yesterday I was in Minnesota, and I was talking to a young who coming from the Somali background. And they were telling me about what is happening, the gang culture there. And as you know, African-American immigrants, we are all facing this problem. In the States, this is a problem. In Europe now, we are calling, you know, people are scared of Islamization of Europe. Others are scared of Americanization of the suburbs. We have a gang and weapons, and it's becoming very worrying, very worrying. And you sit and you listen to some of what they have to say. And you will see that there is something which is a problem with our youth, young people and within among the youth. It's something which is the lack of communication. To not to be respected and not to be heard in what you have to say, in schools, for example. So some are becoming violent, some are going to drugs, some are going to shake this society because they are not heard and respected. Communication is critical. Communication is something which is the starting point of social justice. To give to every single human being the right to be heard in what she or he has to say. And especially in our mosques, in our churches, in our schools, are we doing this? In our family, are you sure, for example, that you give enough space for your kids to be heard, to speak out, to respect you not in silence, but to respect you by being critical? If you think that your kids are respecting you because you are silent, you are dreaming, or you are foolishing yourself. The true respect towards the parents is to be able to speak your mind and to be respected. With respect and this discussion, this communication is so important. We are in a society of, you know, lots of means of communication and less communication, which is paradoxical. It's the time of Facebook. We communicate. No time to sit and to look at one another, to take time to be heard. It's the time of, being anonymous. While today we need to be perceived. And this is part of social justice. This is something which is so important. Why are you so happy with the Prophet ﷺ? Is that when someone was coming with nothing, just a question, he was here to listen. And the only time he didn't listen to a poor man, an old man coming, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, you talk to the rich and you forget the sincere one. He has nothing, he has no name, but he has dignity. Abasa wa tawalla. You know this story. So this is why we have to keep with all this dimension and come. This is the very essence of Islam. So what do we have to do in the States now? Knowing all this, which is part of our religion. And it's not so easy. It's very complex. It's a comprehensive approach that is needed. We need all this. How do we deal with the basic needs? How do we deal with education? How do we deal with spirituality? How do we deal with dignity? How do we deal with communication? How do we deal with love? How do we deal with brotherhood? How do we deal with the potentiality in this society to achieve something and to be recognized and to be dignified in this society? This is where, with the principles now, you come to the society and to try to translate this into reality. How are we going to do that? Just by sitting here and just saying, oh, Islam is all about justice. We want to see this. And what you were saying about the 60s and the 70s, where the Muslims or the people were coming to Islam because it was a driving force. And before that, if you come now and you listen to what Malcolm X, it was all about this. It was, we are not going to keep quiet about injustices. We are not going to accept that. So we are very happy with what he said, not so active to what we have to do now. So let me just end this talk with a few things that for me are so important in our society and for you here. Few things that we have to know. In Islam, the thing is justice is a condition, and we have to understand, and this was the verse that was mentioned here. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى. So this is a very important starting point, is that you have to stand for justice, for God, in the name of justice, and the hatred of any people should not push you to be unjust. Stay just, remain just. This is closer to God consciousness. So this is something which is important, is our testimony towards God is to be just, and to do something which is important, is to check our feeling and to impose our understanding. Do not let hatred push you to be unjust, so check your feeling and come with justice. Whatever is happening in this society with the people who are spreading around bad messages and negative perception of Islam, don't let this drive you towards something which is not justice. Be very careful. You know, some people, they want you to feel alien to the society. It's a psychological war by adding and adding negative perception of Islam, so you feel, oh, these Americans, they don't like us. You are not here to be liked. You are here to serve. And because you serve, you are going to be respected and liked. It's the other way around. So be careful, there is a psychological war. For the last 10 years and before that, a psychological war. And the psychological war has one objective: to let you feel that you are not part of the society, that you are the other. And you enter the society through the margin. Be careful, you are not in the margin. All what you are saying here is a mainstream discourse with universal values. So you are, and you should feel in the margin. And then there is something which is also coming from the text. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم. So this is something which is a self-critical approach, that in the name of justice before God, you have to show a critical stand towards your own self, your father, your relatives, the people you love. So once again, check your feeling. And this time, the positive feeling, because you might be unjust, because you love the people, and you love yourself, and you are not imposing justice onto yourself. So one was about hatred, the second is about love. In both situations, you have to check yourself and to come to justice. So this is the starting point of everything, which is how are you going to understand it as something which is a spiritual and a religious condition, and then how you are going to implement that. And we all know something which is zakat, and we speak about zakat as a means to implement justice. Because zakat is something which is important for both. It's the spirituality of the rich, and it's the right of the poor. And this is why I'm not, the zakat, it's, the translation is problematic. But there are 3 dimensions in zakat. There is purification for your wealth. There is a tax you have to, and it's social. It's a purifying social tax. It's not charity. It's not alms as we are translating. It's wrong. Purifying social tax. You have to pay to purify your money in order to get and to help the society towards more justice. Zakat is very important for us. As I said, the spirituality of the rich and the rights of the poor. This is why we have to understand it. حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. It's a haqq, it's a right that the poor have in our society. But there is something which is important. Wherever you are, you pray. And you pray here in the United States of America, the creator of the earth and the heavens. It's a universal local presence. You pray here at the time of the United States of America, you pray. It's a universal prayer here and now. Zakat is exactly the same. If you understand the very essence of zakat is not to take the money and to send it back to Pakistan. Do this with your sadaqat. But the zakat is for the poor people here. Here. And this is why it's important. تُؤْخَذْ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ لِفُقَرَائِهِمْ. It has to be taken for the rich people, for their poor people here. Meaning by this, that wherever you live, you need to know who are the poor people around you. But now to tell me I'm going to take the money and send the money back to Pakistan, no, what you are sending in Pakistan should be the sadaqat. But the zakat, it should be here. It's only for exceptional situations that you send your zakat there. The poor in America, and especially the Muslims, because you have lots of Muslims. And don't tell me, there are not so many poor Muslims in America. Are you blind? And the problem is that if you only look at the people around you, like this evening, of course, not so many poor people, but so many new immigrants. Somali brothers and sisters, Pakistani brothers and sisters, African American brothers and sisters. They are poor and they have a right on your money. Your money is for them first. Now, if you have more money to send to Pakistan, if there is no natural catastrophe there, you send sadaqat. But the zakat is here. And this is something which is an imperative of your religion. It's only in a situation of exception that you send the money there. So what does it mean this? When you understand the very meaning of zakat, you understand that you need to know your society. You need to be rooted in America to know who are the poor people around you, because they have a right onto your money. They have this right. And you have this spiritual obligation to give the money to the people here. The fourth dimension of zakat. Zakat is not only I give the money to assist you just to have a better evening or a better festival or Eid. The very essence of zakat is to help the people who are getting the zakat to be autonomous, and they pay the zakat themselves. Zakat is a means towards autonomy. It's not a way to keep assistance. And this is why we don't get it. The way we implement zakat and we pay zakat is wrong today. We don't get the philosophy. What we have to do is to take the money and to find projects to help the people to be autonomous. And the Chinese proverb, always when I'm saying this I have to add, it's a Chinese proverb which is Islamic in substance. Because someone say, what a Chinese proverb for us Muslims. So it's an Islamic Chinese proverb. I have to put it in that way. Say, don't give to the poor people fish, but teach them how to fish, to be autonomous. This is exactly what we need. Zakat is for that. So if you come with all this, how are you going to implement this in this country? Within the community, how are you going to use Zakat? And if you are working for social justice, a way to get a better sense, how do we deal with Zakat? And not only this, now how do we deal with this society? And let's just come with some of the points that are critical in this society. The first is that there are too many poor people in this country. We were just reading the figures. 46 million people are hungry in this country. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. So we need to have a strategy at the local level. The Muslims, as American citizens, you have to try to do something. It should be within the community, but outside the community. And not only during Ramadan. Ramadan is a school for the next 11 months. It's just not that we want to please the people. We have, in many societies, we have le couscous de l'amitié. It's nice, come and eat with us. We are so nice during Ramadan and absent during the next 11 months. We are transforming Ramadan into, a month between brackets, which it's exactly the opposite. It's a school to help us to be present the whole year. So this is why we have to come with a strategy when it comes to a jihad against poverty in the United States of America. We did this, and I repeat that, we did this in Mauritius. We launched with Christian, with Buddhist, with Chinese people coming from different backgrounds, a jihad against poverty. Because jihad here has the right meaning. We are struggling the common enemy. And the common enemy is poverty. Let us come together. Let them use the concept of jihad with us. Yes, it's a jihad. And you have priests in South America speaking about a war against poverty. So this is a struggle. The second thing which is important for us, it's, education, it's important. Education, it's important when we have a problem. Rawls, the philosopher, was saying, when we deal with on justice, the very important book, is saying, we have to be very careful. Justice is not to give you the same rights only. It's to deal with the same opportunities. And the same opportunities is not, you have to look at where are the people and from where they are starting in order to get at a certain level. So opportunities is not only to give to everyone the same, is for some of them to give them more because they are starting from far. So it's to adapt what you are giving to give them the same opportunities. And in education, it's quite important. I'm sorry to tell you, and you know this, that the American educational system is problematic. It's problematic. You have private schools for the rich and second-class schools for the poor. If you're not going to be involved in this, and if the only answer of the Muslims when it comes to schools is, we have our Islamic schools, it's not going to work. You are going to be living in parallel, in the margin of the society. While 90% of the Muslims and your kids are going to the mainstream school system, they are facing exactly the same problem. So are you waiting for you to have the money to pay and to forget about all the people who don't have money? Or are you going to be involved in anything which has to do with reforming the educational system? Reforming the educational system in having in mind social justice. In which way you are going to promote alternative and creativity. This is why we need teachers. We need people to be involved in this, creative in that field. Education is a key factor of social injustice. And this is where you have to be involved. Racial discrimination. I'm sorry, if you want to deal, you need to be courageous. You need to deal with social justice. We need to deal with racial discrimination. It means that you have to speak about power. You need to speak about power in this country and to challenge the power, but we need to be courageous. It's not because we speak about social justice that we are going to be loved by everyone because it's nice. I'm sorry, I'm seeing now Muslims, they just want to be liked. They just want to please the people. I'm a good Muslim. No, you have to stand up for rights. You have to be able to challenge the power and to say what you are doing is wrong. So when we have racial discrimination in this country, it's still a reality. It's not because you have a president who is now the first African-American president, Barack Obama, that it's over. This is a symbol. It's a symbol hiding the reality of millions of people who are facing racial discriminations. And some of these brothers and sisters in humanity and in Islam, they are facing this and they are forgotten by the Muslims. Because we are facing something. You're not going to change the United States of America when it comes to racial discriminations if we are not going to change it within our community. Face it. Face it. Face the reality of this community within which we are experiencing racism. If you want to change this society for the better, we have to tackle this and to be able to work together. So I would like this organization and any organization to bridge with other organizations coming from African American Muslims to work together and say, it's our struggle with Somali people, with converts, with people in jail. This is our job. But فاقد الشيء لا يعطي. If you don't have something, you cannot give it. So if you don't have this openness towards racial issues, you are not going to change the country. And once again, I heard so many African American Muslims, they are not happy with us. They are not happy with their brothers. They feel that they are second-class Muslims. So what are you going to teach to the people? Add to this, when we are rich and we are white and not so black, we have this kind of arrogance. We're not going to change anything in this society. And I'm sorry to tell you, if your integration is to be, as all the other Americans, neglectful about this, this is not integration. This is dissolution. This is distraction. This is no way. There is no sense in this. This is not the way forward. So this is where we have to work: the school system, racial discrimination, geographical segregation. We have to work on that. Because sometimes you come to Washington, it's so nice if you don't go to specific areas. Exactly the same in every single city in this country. Social and geographical segregation, it's important when it comes to social justice. The people are saying, oh, let us live together. Who do you want to live with? Who are these people you are talking about? It's easy here. You are not at risk. But when it comes to segregation in the geographical, can you just get it? Can you get that? That we are putting people coming with the same background in areas where just they are going to have social problems, gangs and violence, and this is our society. We don't want to see it. Have you seen this in our community? We speak about the Medinian experience. Where were the poor with the Prophet ﷺ? Around the mosque. You know this Medinan mosque, the mosque of the Prophet that you are going to visit in Medina? This is where the poor were, in the center. Look at them. This is your community. No, we are accepting that they are far from us. We don't see them. Are you going to accept that? Are you integrated as much as that you are forgetting the reality of social justice? I'm sorry, if there is a meaning in such an organization, is to work against geographical segregation. So this is the fourth field in America which is important. There is another field which is important. Very often the people are speaking about Islam and Muslims segregating and discriminating women. And it's true that in our community there is something which is not going right. But if there is something that we have to do in this society as well, is to be able to say same skills, same competencies, the same salary. There should be no job market. This is also social justice. Let the Muslims be at the forefront of this struggle. To say if you work, the same salary, if you have the same competency, if they have the same skills. Why are we on the defensive? We speak about the headscarf. If it was only this which is important. The headscarf is a trap. It's an Islamic obligation, no discussion about this. But if you are under the psychological pressure that they are pushing you to speak only about this, you are falling into a trap. It's a trap. Let us speak about the essential thing, which is, for example, domestic violence. Who is beating the woman? In our community? Yes, but not only in our community. This is a universal disease. Let us come as Muslims in the name of social justice against domestic violence and no discrimination in the job market. Be on the offensive. Be assertive with the Islamic principles, but showing that you are serious about that. Serious means we mean it. We are doing something about that. So about women, this should be a message for the Muslims. This is why we are an added value in this society. To be an added value is so important for us. And as I said, well-being. You know, the United Nations, they started something which is changing the parameters and the scale on which we assess the development of a society by talking about the human being or the Human Development Index. They're saying the well-being and how do you feel in the society, happiness. We need to come with this, and we need to say social justice is also about this. It's also about this, you know, brotherhood and communication and being able to let the Muslims come with this. Let us come with what we had in the countries of origin about generosity, welcoming the people, sharing, not to be selfish and we are colonized the wrong way. We should have colonized the United States of America with generosity, and we are colonized with selfishness and individualism. It's the other way around. We have to change that. So this is where social justice is also about this. It's also about this feeling. It's also about sharing with the people. It's to listen, communication. But we have to change ourselves first, being able to communicate and to listen, and to understand this, that communication is one dimension of social justice. No communication, no social justice. No people to hear, no social justice. No people to talk, no social justice. This is a dimension which is important. And as it is important also, don't forget that, religious equality. Remember that the President Obama said that in the United States of America, every single religion should have the right to exist and to express itself. Struggle for that. Don't let the people have one freedom for some and another freedom for others. This is social justice as well. Religious equality, it's important. In fact, it's the only survival of the United States of America. If you accept discrimination on this, it's over. So you have to be at the forefront of this struggle for yourself and for other religions. But to do this, three things. And this is my conclusion. The first one is we have to do it for all. We are serving a society, and we want the United States of America to be a better society tomorrow, because this is the future of our kids and the kids of our fellow citizens. So it's something which is a vision for Muslims and non-Muslims. You are serving a community, a society. It means also that we have to promote an added value in our citizenship, which is an ethics of citizenship. Ethics of citizenship. We know our duties. We don't only ask and claim our rights. So this is why we have to come with an ethics, which is how do we develop this. And the last thing which is important, all what I have been saying here about social justice, it's really to be able to be a bit courageous. And I'm asking you, and if, you know, I'm here to support this work with this dimension that we have involved in social justice, there is something that I keep on repeating to the Muslims. We have one problem in the West. One problem. The first is, of course, a lack of knowledge. And we don't know enough about our religion. But I can tell you something, that if we were more courageous, we would come back to knowledge. You know why? Because when you are courageous and you are facing the problem, that you are facing the challenge, you understand the lack of knowledge that you can have here, and you come back to knowledge. It might be that it's because there is a lack of courage that we accept a lack of knowledge. And with more courage, you would come back to knowledge, because you cannot face the challenges if you are not equipped. وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ. And intellectual strength is very important. So I would say to the Muslims here, ask yourself if you are doing what you can, and if you have the necessary courage just to face these challenges and to be able to do the work. So this is an Islamic understanding in a specific environment, which is your environment as American citizens, and this is where you should be, inshallah, an added value. Wallahu a'lam wa a'la wa ahkam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.